Good morning. So over the past couple of years, Alexander Hamilton has gone from being one of the more obscure of the founding fathers, a face on the $10 bill that most people can't quite remember what he was famous for, whether he was one of our presidents or not, to actually being something of a national craze. There was an excellent biography of his life that came out in 2004, but it wasn't until Lin-Manuel Miranda adapted that biography into a Broadway musical that things really took off. That Hamilton musical is now perpetually sold out on Broadway, with tickets going for over $1,000 on the secondary market, performances at the White House, books and recordings becoming bestsellers, and a whole industry popping up to cash in on the curious new interest on America's first Secretary of the Treasury. I myself resisted the hype for a long time. The first time I heard the words historical hip-hop musical about the founding of the American financial system, that made me raise a skeptical eyebrow so high it took months for it to come back down. But recently I've actually jumped on the bandwagon as well. I listen to the soundtrack when I go jogging, I'm reading the biography when I lay in bed at night, and learning a lot more than I ever thought I would want to know about this man. Early on in that musical, there's a song that introduces a key theme and conflict for the story. When Alexander Hamilton meets Aaron Burr for the first time, Hamilton comes in bounding with youthful enthusiasm and energy, full of words and questions, eager to learn anything he can from Burr. And Burr takes him aside and offers him some advice. Talk less, smile more, don't let them know what you're against or what you're for. In short, he advises Hamilton to be quiet, not to take a stand, not make waves, not do anything that could offend or get him in trouble, and to just ride the wave of polite congeniality all the way to the top. Hamilton is taken aback by this advice, and for the next 2 hours of the play and the next 40 years of his life, he proceeds to do the exact opposite. Hamilton goes on to be a bold thinker and writer, never backing down from asking for exactly what he needs and when he needs it. I've been thinking about this recently in relation to our annual stewardship campaign. There's an inherent awkwardness in asking people to make a contribution, especially when those people are your friends and family that you sit next to in the pews every Sunday for the rest of the year. That awkwardness frequently translates into a campaign that's based on talking less and smiling more, being kind of indirect and couching the ask in terms of building community and faith formation. Now, stewardship absolutely is about building community. It is about faith formation, but it's also about something far more simple than that. It's about a word that somehow in 3 years of giving these stewardship sermons, I have completely avoided saying, even though it's a critical part of everything we do at Christ Church. But now, based on Hamilton's example, I'm finally feeling empowered to take a stand and ask directly, maybe even a little bit bluntly, for what we need. It's about money. Now I'm going to pause a moment and let people recover from the shock of hearing the M word spoken aloud in church. Is everyone okay? So, obviously that's not fair. We do talk about money in church quite a bit, but it's usually in the context of it being the root of all evil, or making it harder to get into heaven than for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle, or it inducing Judas to betray Jesus into the hands of the Romans. We rarely talk about it as being a force for good. I invite you to take a moment and just look around at how lucky we are to be here right now. What went into the making of the service today? The bulletin in your hands cost a few cents of paper, but being printed week after week, dozens of copies each week, those pennies add up. Or think about the machines that went into making the bulletin, the computers, the printer. Think about Claire working in the office every week to get the bulletin ready for Sunday morning. The candles, the bread, the wine, the electricity, the heat, the water, the music, the liturgy, even the chance for Shelley and Aaron to be at home right now with baby Moses, spending a few weeks together before jumping back into normal life. All these things come together to be a powerful force for good, a force for doing Christ's work in the world. And yes, they all cost money. Now, some of you just looked around when I said that and you didn't see any of those things. Maybe you saw a coffee shop or your bedroom or your office or maybe a seat on the bus. And I'm talking now to our YouTube parishioners. You are one of the dozens, sometimes hundreds of people who watch our videos on a weekly basis, joining us spiritually when you can't join us physically, and no less a valuable member of our parish. Last year, we actually had our first pledge from a member of our virtual congregation, showing their appreciation for the values of these sermons and the work we're doing here in Seattle by promising their support. You know, if you're interested in making the same pledge of support, you can contact the church office through the email address on our website. You know, I myself am a contributing member to 2 different congregations, both here, my church home in Seattle, and also to St. Lydia's in Brooklyn, New York, who I follow online, read their sermons, and has been a valuable part of my faith life as well. Here in Seattle, this next year is going to be an exciting one. This church is certainly not one to sit back and avoid making a stand and avoid rocking the boat. We continually go after new opportunities to serve and live out our principles, sometimes making big leaps of faith before we know exactly how they will work out. After many years of separation, Christ Church is going to be taking an active role in campus ministry once more, with Shelley working directly with college students, providing pastoral care during one of the most tumultuous times in their life. We're also going to be working with University District Street Medicine to host a clinic to offer physical therapy services to the unhoused community around our church, providing a much-needed service to help people for whom traditional medical care is not an option. I don't think anyone here knows exactly how these programs are going to work and what they'll need. We're still kind of figuring these things out. But I know that we're excited about them. I know that they represent our beliefs of who we are and what we stand for, that we're not afraid of being bold. And yes, like everything else, there will be money involved in one way or another in making these successful. One of the reasons why we usually don't talk about money in polite conversation is that we know that money weighs on people in different ways. We are blessed to be a very financially diverse congregation. And one of the core values we have as a parish is that one's wealth and one's ability to contribute financially is immaterial to who they are as a person, to the voice that they have in our committees and our decisions, and to the sense of community we share together. Each person here in a pew or watching online has their own unique financial situation and a different amount that God would lead them to give. I only ask that you think about that amount prayerfully with a recognition of the fact that this place, the work we're doing, the outreach that we're making to the community, it does take money, but that money is directly turned into good. So I stand here before you with a bold, plain-spoken request. We need your support. We need money, which is the mechanism that allows us to continue to show our abundant love and continue in our bold work in the community. And while bold actions can sometimes take you to places you aren't comfortable, where things are a little bit awkward, it's really only through bold actions that we make history and that we change the world.